planning. And it's like, no, dude, that's just called self-indulgence. You're just indulging what you want to do, which is not what you should be doing.
You think
as a
Candy
teacher.
wasn't available and that's why he asked this girl?
I don't know.
I wonder what Candy was doing that day. For nerd stuff, Reddit is great. Like every single time I get stuck in a game and I'm like, ugh, can't be bothered to experiment anymore in this game, I go on Reddit. Reddit got the answer for me every single time. A game starts crashing, Reddit has the answer. Nerd stuff, really good. You know, and they're not very rude to each other.
How do I install this big boob mob onto the new Oblivion remastered? Well, Reddit has you covered.
Funny enough, you're saying that.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Billy and Andre Show. All the show that's make you say, oh, look, it's Billy and Andre. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
I don't know what I was going for
I
there.
don't know, like you were going for a proper radio voice.
I really was. It was like, this is the completely impartial BBC World Service operating on behalf of the Conservative Party. You know, it's that shit. It's
not the Conservative Party.
Well, not anymore, but
that's great.
It's basically
that was
the same thing
that was really nice. Not like last time when someone interrupted me.
What was the last time someone interrupted you? Oh.
You interrupted me last intro.
Oh yeah, I did do that.
That was great.
That was a week ago. Like I forget. I've got a terrible memory, which is why I have to take so many notes. And I've got so many notes in front of me, though, guys. This is going to be just
funny
a note
enough. You have
fest.
You have more notes, or less notes than I had last time. But it looks like an absolute chaos.
That's because of my writing. You guys can't see this. My handwriting is and has always been like fucking terrible.
Maybe we can take a picture of that and put it up.
No, maybe. Yeah, if you could understand any word, like I can understand it just about, but that's only because I'm used to it.
I'm looking at it upside down as well. So
you're looking at it upside down in a second language when you're already dyslexic, and you're like, nah, I can't read that.
Yeah, I can't even read handwriting most times.
Really?
Yeah, it's really hard for me to read anything which is handwritten. I think that's also to do with the fact that I don't think I ever had to write a message down by hand in the last, I don't know how long.
Practice is a thing. It does you do sort of lose it when you haven't written stuff down, like on paper for a while, because I was doing that like after jobs where I haven't had to write anything down.
Yeah.
And then I had to relearn how to write stuff so that I could read it. You know?
Well, I'll write a perfectly good email in a professional manner. Absolutely no problem. Make me write something down by hand. You're like, how old are you? Like every time I have to write the briefs where before shifts, you do this thing where you assign people roles. Ugh.
Yeah, so
I feel bad on my shifts.
Sorry, is that Adam or AJ? Like,
yeah.
I just hope like, everyone you're working with has like a different first letter.
Everybody usually does the same thing. They don't even have to look at it, you know? It's
I suppose.
But still, if you look at it, you're like, whoa. The fuck, man.
We used to have these things called allocation sheets when I worked at the hospital. It's like basic, just like, okay, who's doing this, who's doing this every hour, like swap round every hour. Pretty basic shit.
Yeah, so you don't get stuck in the same place, right? So,
yeah. It's just sometimes you get stuck with someone who could just barely write at all. And it was just like, they'd be the nurse, and it's just like, they're filling out and like, they're misspelling everyone's names. Like, usually it's an agency nurse or someone like that. They don't know what they're doing. They're just writing down like names and
then they're hoping it's all right.
And you can't figure out what you're doing. It's just like, excuse me, like I need to flag you down while you're in the middle of something. Like, here, could you just tell me what that is? That me? Is that me? Am I doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine.
Shbili?
Yeah.
Am I Shbili? Okay, I'm just asking if it's a Shbili or whatever.
It's close enough.
It's like, started with a B, so it looked fine. So there you go.
Oh, I might have to cut that out because I just coughed near the microphone. Anyway.
Oh, I'll have a listen. It's early enough to still care.
Yeah, it's early enough to give a shit. Oh, no, I swore. Sorry, buddy.
No, you swore like 4 times already. I'm counting them. You're doing a push-up for every swear you do. We'll whoop you into shape. Either that or you're going to stop
Joke's
swearing.
on you. I can do 5,000 press-ups.
Yeah.
Anyway.
One punch man.
I'm literally one punch man in this bitch. Okay, so why have I got so many notes in front of me? Why are we making fun of my handwriting? Because today we're talking about stuff done very, very badly. And not just stuff, people. Scientific stuff.
A beautiful transition, man. I appreciate that. That was really nice.
I listened to way too many radio dramas. Anyway.
Like The Archers.
Yeah, no, not The Archers. Come on.
Like
I'm not
The
that
Archers.
middle class. Somehow you are. I don't know. I don't get it. And anyway, we're talking about bad science. Bad science specifically. And why? Why would we talk about bad science? Well, surely, Billy, bad science, we don't think about it because it's like, oh, that experiment was a failure. Throw it in the dustbin of history, never to be heard from again.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. But are we talking about bad science that is coming to light, that is bad science, or it's been bad science all along?
Oh, it's been bad science all along. The key thing is, nobody fucking notices.
Okay.
The reason why is pretty simple, and it can be summed up in one word. Media.
Oh, yay, media.
Media, and not just social media, because everyone knows at this point that Facebook, Twitter, they're not
reliable.
They're not reliable sources of information.
So if you do get your news from Facebook, stop.
Yeah, please.
Just stop.
Just please. Like
you use Facebook just for the lost and found articles.
Yeah, but just use it for meeting up with your cousin who you haven't spoken to in 20 years. Don't use it to gain information about the world, because you just won't. All you'll get is a bunch of AI slot posts that are like, oh look, this is what liberal women are doing because of abortion, and there'll be an AI image of someone just hammering fetuses to death. That's what Facebook is like.
This is definitely not going to be one of the...
It should be, because it's relevant. Twitter obviously is not much better. Reddit can be awful
Twitter
as well.
is just Nazis.
Twitter is literally just Nazis, yes.
And Reddit is just racists.
Nerds, and people who would be shunned from polite society. Sometimes they can be correct, but not very often.
Not very often, no. I did find that, for nerd stuff, Reddit is great. Every single time I get stuck in a game and I'm like, ugh, can't be bothered to experiment anymore in this game, I go on Reddit. Reddit got the answer for me every single time. A game starts crashing, Reddit has the answer. Nerd stuff, really good. And they're not very rude to each other.
How do I install this big boob mob onto the new Oblivion remastered? Well, Reddit has you covered.
Funny enough, you're saying that. I'm playing it on console, right? It's not like I'm going there. But it came. So the game came out. Was still in Barcelona. It was
a week ago, right?
Less than a week ago.
Damn.
Less than it came out. Modders for PC already brought up mods.
Of course they
These
did.
people have no lives, man. Come on.
But without them,
yeah, sure.
Bethesda games would not work.
Yeah. Anyway. Let's go to your thing,
because
we can...
Okay, so it's not just social media that's really bad at doing any kind of science reporting ever. The regular media is just as bad.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to be old enough to remember this. I'm about the wrong... I'm slightly too young. You probably are as well. But in the UK, back in the 90s, there was a huge anti-vax movement. A massive one. Vaccines lead to autism. Huge news reports. Everyone in the media was freaking out about this for about 2-3 years.
Didn't that happen 4 years ago in America?
Yeah, 4 years ago, fucking everywhere. It's basically exactly the same story.
Okay.
But basically, some guy came out with a science paper, said, look, I have proved that vaccines caused autism. The study was of 12 people, several of whom didn't have autism because he lied. Bunch of them didn't have the symptoms he was describing because he lied. Everyone else who worked on the paper said it was bullshit and that the guy in charge was lying, and the media refused to report on it for 2 years. That's how
and then
shit
people
they are.
latched onto the idea that vaccinating your children causes autism.
Yes, which had never been proven ever, even if they take his study and tried to do it to more people. It was oh, no, he made all this shit up and it was bullshit.
Yeah.
But yeah, the media did not catch any of that. In fact, they were really supportive of him because it was a big news story, lots of controversy, and lots of people watching the news, which is the only thing they give a shit about.
Yeah.
Do not trust media that makes money, people, because there really is there's no point.
That's why you should get all your information from us, because we make
yes.
no money. We're doing this for fun.
We are doing this for an audience of about 10 people and a dog. That's how you know we mean this.
And 2 cats.
And 2 cats. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of previous examples of this. Even in just really shit pop science, you see every once in a while the Daily Mail will say, scientists say a glass of red wine will actually cause you to live until you're 120. No, it means that, red wine has some chemical properties that aren't terrible for your heart, the way that normal alcohol is.
So it has antioxidants.
Yeah.
And it produces, I think, the correct study goes that if you drink red wine, your body creates more red blood cells, which are good for you because they revitalize themselves. Something to that effect.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it makes you live till 100.
Yeah. It's
because in the same idea, I know a guy that lived up to 100 and he smoked all his life, like chain smoked all his life. So technically, smoking can make you live till 100 on the same principle.
This is a problem of bad science that we shall come back to later, my friend.
Okay.
So, I actually have personal experience with the media fucking over data. I used to go out with someone who was a bit more qualified than me, but they put out a paper about like your psychological self-image, how it relates to your age.
Yeah.
Like, how much is age being a barrier to things, like new things in your life? How much of that is psychological and how much of that is like physical?
Yeah.
Quite a lot of it's psychological. If you feel young, generally you act and do more young things.
Yeah.
The media took it and put it into like a really tiny like square of an article, and it said, "Oh, actually, age is just a number after all. You will be like healthier as an old person if you pretend to be young." And it's like, no, that's not how that goes. Works. You don't pretend to be young. No.
I mean, you could have a sort of a chipper demeanor, right? I think you could like be old and be like, "Oh, I feel youthful, so I'll go for more walks and I'll feel better because I went for more walks."
Yeah.
That doesn't mean
you just suddenly say, "Oh, I feel younger. My cancer has gone away."
No. That doesn't mean your hip replacement all of a sudden is better.
No,
just saying, man.
It also doesn't mean like, I feel like a beaten up old like curmudgeon. I hate the world and I hate everything in it. I'm just going to pretend that I'm 45 and see if that changes anything. No, that's not how it works either.
That's how it works.
You have to genuinely feel it. You have to genuinely like identify. Funnily enough, with that age. So. Moving on, that's just one example of that was the Daily Mail. They're notoriously terrible at this.
Why would you give examples from the Daily Mail?
Because it's the largest newspaper site in the entire world. Ugh. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
No, you did not know that, yeah.
Does he own some Americans?
He owns Fox News, yes. Rupert Murdoch owns all of this stuff. It's
We're not going there, okay.
No, because the life and career of Rupert Murdoch would fill several books, most of them calling him a cunt. Okay, so... Why do I give a shit about bad science and science being reported in this way? Well, it leads people to being stupid. And stupid people make stupid decisions. If you don't have the information and it's not the proper information, you're going to do dumb shit. Like Brexit, for example. Things like that.
We lived through that. It was great.
I know. And it was amazing how many people didn't know how anything worked. And, to those of us who did say, well, actually, it works like this. And they go, "Oh, shut up, nerd. You don't know shit. You know what? I'm actually going to vote harder for Brexit just because you were insufferable about it." I'm like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah. That's what you should decide to do with your vote.
Yeah.
Just look at the other guy and I just dislike you and I heard what you want to vote for, so I'll vote against it.
It's a common theme throughout the history of politics. Anyway, so there's all sorts of much bigger examples of what happens if we let bad science run out of control. The one that jumps most to my mind is the famine in the 50s in China, which was a result of one man. One man with a really, really stupid idea of how farming worked basically killed more communists than the CIA and the American army combined in 50 fucking years. And he did it in 10.
Wow.
The reason that China, lost almost a quarter of its population at one point was because of this one man with his dumb science ideas and people too stupid or too scared of the government to say, this guy's full of shit and he's a liar.
So did the Americans give him a star because of it?
They should have. If he had been, he could not have been a better Soviet, a better CIA double agent if he had been paid. He could not have been that good.
Am I allowed to do conspiracy theories right now? Yeah.
It's possible that he was,
You know what I'm thinking, right? Why are you in my head? He was a CIA agent.
It's possible.
He was 100% a CIA agent.
I don't actually know.
I mean, neither. I'm sorry, I don't want to start conspiracy theories.
To be fair, if you look at the guy's face, he looked like a Nazi. You just look and you go, yeah, that's exactly what a guy with a Luger, right before he caps my family in the back of the head. That's what that guy would look like.
Yeah.
He's got a jaw that looks like it was carved with a blunt axe. And it's oh yeah, now your cheekbones are wider than your head.
I love how you describe Germans. Wow.
He wasn't German, he was Russian, but whatever. He looked like proper Aryan stock of the master race or whatever, but he was just a complete insane crazy person who killed half a continent.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Fascinating guy. Maybe we'll do a deep dive on him at some point. But yeah, that also, that sort of, letting that bad science and bad scientists get out of control, that's sort of the peak of what can happen if you do that. Because it's, it might end up being, oh, well, it's just a silly guy with his silly ideas. Let's just leave him to, yammer at nobody. Or he might end up taking over, the scientific organization of an entire country and fucking everybody over.
Yeah.
Which is...
Well, we've seen that then. Let's hope that's not gonna...
RFK Jr. is currently the head of Health and Human Services of the United States.
Oh, fuck.
This is a guy who believes that AIDS isn't real.
What did he believe about AIDS then?
Oh, he says it's not caused by HIV or something. It's caused by something else. But the thing is, the something else, I forget what it was, that's caused by HIV. So he's just lying, basically. I don't know. It's an old conspiracy theory. I don't know why he still believes it. He just does.
Okay. Oh, let's...
Another bad science guy that we will get back to at some point. But, so... The reason that I at least give a shit about bad science is because if not only can it lead to massive social problems, but it also gets rid of one of the best sort of things that we've ever invented, the scientific method,
Yep.
testing something to see if it's real.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty basic, but it actually took us over 1,500 years of modern history to come up with that.
Yeah. And these guys are just ruining it.
And these guys are pissing on it for fun. So let's get to it.
Okay.
So, the first person I want to talk about is a fellow called Ken Zucker, and he is very, very, very heavily cited by a certain group of people, and you'll find out why in a minute. He calls himself an expert on transgenderism in young people. And you're already, sort of...
Already laughing.
You're already bracing yourself. This guy's been around for a while. He's been practicing since basically the mid-1970s. And he's still in a very high position today. He's the source of a lot of claims that you might hear on social media, funnily enough, usually about trans people and usually specifically about kids. And what he is always saying is girls are being tricked into thinking they're men, and girls are actually, they're transitioning at a higher rate because of blah, 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 blah. He's the source of a lot of those claims. He's also a source for a lot of claims that conversion therapy works. Conversion therapy, if you don't know, is when you take a gay kid or a trans kid and you basically put them in a box with a person who hates them and expect the hate to stop them from being gay or trans. Basically, we can just talk you out of it.
Well, let me stop you right there. Here's the thing, right? I don't know much about this. And, I have certain opinions. I'm not going to say it on podcast. But my idea is putting somebody in a room and just letting them show hate towards somebody else just to change their opinion will never work. Because I have a prime example. One of my friends, every time I advise him, oh, you shouldn't do that because it's bad for you and you might end up on the street, he goes and does it. And
now I have fun trying to guess which one of your friends you're talking about.
But here's the thing. You can't force your opinions on someone, even their hate or their good opinions.
Yeah.
And coming with a theory saying, I'll put a gay kid in a room with a hater, hoping for something to happen.
Well, I'll give Ken Zucker this, all right? It was saying, conversion therapy is usually you get sent to a Christian camp or some shit, and you get a bunch of vicars. Not vicars. It's an American thing. They don't usually do it as much over here, but they still do it. But we put a much more professional face on it. We don't just send them to the Christians.
Okay.
In America, they just
send them to prison.
No, it's the worst case scenario. It's that's not going to make the gay go away. It's probably going to make it worse.
Yeah. And gave him more trauma.
And more trauma, yes. The point is, usually, conversion therapy is done by, Christian counselors. I'm doing massive inverted air quotes here, where they basically say, well, have you tried not being gay? And they just do that answer. They ask that question over and over until the kid goes, fine, if you'll get me out of this, therapy session, I'm straight now. I love women. Give me some tits in my face. Now just let me out. That's generally what happens. And then they go, aha, a victory. It's not.
It's just somebody giving up on...
It's just someone just not caring anymore.
And this sounds a lot like Scientology. Like,
it kind of is.
Yeah, because you know how Scientology works. I know, just talking about Mad Men. So I'm
yeah. I'm familiar. Yeah.
So the way Scientology sits you down, gives you holding on to those rods and probing you to get more dirt on you and probing you until you go to the conclusion. Then yes, you are right. This is.
I am a suppressive person. I did betray the church.
Yeah,
I will stop being married to a black person now.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
The whole thing. Oh, we should do one on Scientology.
Scientology would be fun, but back on topic. So, Ken Zucker is very proud of the fact, and he's, defending himself by saying this, that he has 35 years experience of treating transgenderism in the youth. Now, what does he mean by that? Because 35 years of experience treating something sounds like a lot, right? It sounds
like a lot, yeah.
Sounds like he's done a lot of good work.
Yeah.
What he means is he ran a private practice that was funded by the Canadian government where he basically had 12 different kids every year for 35 years, and his job was to try and make them not trans. Do you know how many of these he succeeded with?
None?
Basically none. Yeah.
Nice.
I think there was like one or two. To be fair,
they probably just wanted to get away from him.
Yeah, most of the time. There's a lot of stuff because I've actually read his papers, and there was also a big review of his work, which was published when I'll get to that bit in a minute. But there was a big published review of his work, and basically, I'll give him some credit. He didn't do the hard sell of, we're going to just like berate you until you're not gay anymore. What they were doing was they were slowly sort of trying to coerce their environment by basically telling their parents to ensure that, we keep them away from that kind of stuff. That was basically it. So, for example, if these kids were anywhere from like 5 to about like 14, I think, 16. Okay. So it was a massive age range. But what he would do is he would like say, oh, well, Jeremy is playing with dolls now. He might have picked that up from his female friends. Don't let him have female friends anymore. Yeah.
I hope the microphone caught that.
Yes, it did.
If anybody wants to know, I just slapped my forehead.
Yeah, that's the kind of level we're operating on here.
So, wait, let me get this straight. For sweet Jesus. So, if you stop being trans, can you, don't interact with women anymore?
Yeah,
so stop being gay.
Stop
being gay, but don't interact.
Friends. Yes. They were focused specifically on trans kids this time, or quote unquote gender non-conforming kids.
Okay.
Basically, their idea of, because most 5-year-olds don't really have that much of opinion on gender. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
What they do display is gender non-conforming behavior, which means like, my 8-year-old girl has just picked up a fire truck and now she's going broom broom. That means she's trans. That's their level of quality that they're looking for.
That was another question I wanted to ask you. Where do they find how do you find in a 5-year-old? But the thing is, it's the same thing. Men used to wear pink, as in children used to wear pink, as boys pink and girls would have blue always. Yeah. And then it's at some point that switched around.
Yeah. So little boys used to wear dresses.
Yeah. So like,
there's a great photo of Franklin Roosevelt, the future US president, when he was like a little kid, and he's like a tiny little baby girl. He's got like a little dress on, he's got like, little posh shoes, he's got long flowy hair, and it's like, oh wait, that's the guy who grew up to win World War II. What the fuck?
Yeah, no, just the world.
The world changes all the time. Yeah, it's fascinating. But yeah, basically a lot of this stuff that he was doing was done in the 80s and the 90s and stuff like that. And in the 80s, we don't remember, but it was kind of like this. Very, very macho time in history. Lots of, like, if you saw your kid, like your male kid, like playing with a Barbie, all of a sudden it was like, shit, he's gay, shit, he's gay, shit, he's gay. We need to oh God, I'm gonna be the guy with a gay son. Oh God, they're all gonna make fun of me. That's the kind of craziness that was going around at the time. It was the 80s. It was the AIDS crisis. Basically, if you were gay, then people thought that you deserved to be smitten by God, basically. So this is the kind of environment he's doing this stuff in. So people are being brought to him for no reason, and he's doing literally less than nothing about it. Because for 35 years he was doing this. 500 kids passed through his door in his thing. It was over 500, I think. Basically, none of them changed at all. Because, now, it's not that all of them were trans, because most of them weren't. Most of them weren't even trans when they came in there. They were just
might have left being trans.
Most of them were like 6. They were like, what's a gender, mummy? Can I have a banana? Yeah. You know, like, it's stuff like they're doing kid shit. There was a whole bunch of problems with, like, because all of his cited paperwork, like all the stuff that he published in journals, which we'll get back to in a second, all the stuff he published in journals was based on that work that he was doing.
Yeah. Which was bullshit.
Which was mostly bullshit, and it was mostly a way for him to siphon a nice paycheck from the government for 35 years.
I mean, that's a good gig.
It really is. When he was really pissed off when they stopped his gig in 2015.
Wow.
2015, this was going on up till, and by the end of it, he had like maybe one patient in his clinic at a time, but he was still getting paid
the same.
Yeah, he was still getting funding from the Canadian government, which is why there was a big old review in 2015. Canada was moving to ban conversion therapy anyway.
Yeah.
But this thing wasn't shut down for being conversion therapy because it was a lot softer than regular conversion therapy. You
so
could argue,
not enough people complained about it being this doesn't do anything, or this is just
people complained. There was lots of complaints, mostly complaining to Zucker himself, saying, well, I've tried all the things that you've said, but it's making my child miserable and depressed. And it takes a lot to make, like, a 7-year-old depressed, you know.
I mean, it's hard. Yeah.
I was really upset when Princess Diana died when I was a young lad.
Oh. Because
they cancelled fucking Biker Mice from Mars, which is on at the same time, just because she got in a car accident. I'm so annoyed.
Okay, wow. I might. You want to sit down for a minute? You want to talk, Billy?
No, it's fine.
That seems like a massive trauma for you.
It really was.
I feel really bad.
It's burned into my memory. Princess Diana is dead. That means I don't get cartoons.
Yeah,
seriously, wasn't fair. On
we'll
the
have a
sit
later, Billy. We'll talk this out. It's okay. It's fine.
I needed therapy for a long time. Instead, I started a podcast.
It's cheaper.
So yeah, after Ken Zucker's bullshit, gravy train was shut down, he got very, very angry at the Canadian government and accused them of censoring his really important research, which he wasn't really doing.
Yep.
There was a whole bunch of journalists who make a lot of money off this stuff. One of them being Jesse Singal, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. It could be Jesse Signal, and I'm just mixing the words up. But anyway, he's a dickhead, so I don't care about his name.
Fair enough.
But Ken Zucker, basically whined to Jesse Singal in an interview and said, basically, cancel culture is coming for me. I'm being censored because my work is controversial. It wasn't controversial. It was. How is it
controversial if you've been doing it for 35 years?
Yeah, you've been doing it for 35 years.
So it's not controversial. You did take money for free for 35 years.
Yeah.
Shut up. You better have paid off your mortgage in those 35 years.
Yeah, it wasn't cancel culture that killed your little scheme there, my friend. In fact, I have a list of reasons from the official government review.
Ooh.
That this just some highlights. It was a really long list, but I've got some curated ones here. So number 1, they still relied on play therapy up until the 2010s, and then they used the time to intervene with the play therapy. Now that's not how play therapy works. Play therapy is supposed to be like, okay, I'm observing a kid playing with some toys. Oh, he seems to be bashing himself on the head repeatedly. This might be an indication of some sort of self-harming or trauma.
Yeah.
That's play therapy. It's really fucking vague, and people don't really use it that much anymore.
Yeah.
There's better stuff. But he was using it basically the whole time and, making shit up about it, basically.
You have to justify your paycheck.
Yeah, got to justify that sweet government money. So there was number 4 from the list. There also appears to be a mismatch between the literature research findings and what they were actually doing in practice. So the stuff that he was writing down, what he was doing, and the stuff that he was actually doing, very different. He would just say that he had done stuff he hadn't do. He wouldn't write stuff that he had done. It was just really sloppy writing. They were basically going against the guidelines of their own organization that they'd written themselves. So it's just massive incompetence from the get-go. Oh, here's a fun one. Number 9, asking a 9-year-old abuse survivor about what sexually enticed them on their first meeting with a 9-year-old.
What sexually enticed
them? A 9-year-old. Yeah.
Wow.
Moving on. Number 10, parents report feeling intimidated by Zucker himself and didn't raise concerns. A lot of parents said, well, actually, he's kind of pushy and he's constantly going on about how our ideas, our opinions of how to raise our kid don't matter. If we want them to avoid being trans, we have to do this. They they would challenge him quite frequently in meetings, and he would just blow them off and ignore them and tell them just
I have questions
follow
for
the
his
program.
parents as well, to be completely honest.
Oh yeah, shitty parenting.
That's really bad parenting. Just because you can't understand that, you don't even bother to understand your child.
Granted, but again, it was the 80s. You know, for quite a lot of this stuff, it was like the 80s, the 70s, and it was over a long period of time. So
still very shitty parents.
Very shitty parents. It was the 80s. I'll give them some leeway on that, I suppose. Oh yeah, they just did a really, really shit job of keeping notes as well. Like, you know, participants would just go missing from the data set and then just not return. And it usually because their parents had sort of said, actually, this is bullshit, we're cancelling out.
And what, they did not bring them back, so they just
didn't bring them back, so they just didn't. But they kept all the data in the article. Usually if someone wouldn't complete like the whole program, then you would just be like, oh, well, that's not good data. Chuck it out. You know?
No, they just said, oh, it worked, so they disappeared.
Yeah. Basically, he just didn't keep. It was just a really, really shittily designed sort of center of research that he was doing there.
I'm glad he's sacked.
Oh, and he had when they reviewed him, they asked him if he had plans to improve any of these things, and he said no.
Like straight up no.
Yeah, he just said no. I don't have any plans to improve this.
Oh,
which is a bit fucking stupid thing to say when the government's reviewing you, bud. Like.
You could have lied. I mean,
yeah,
I'm
you
not
could,
on this.
You could have lied.
No. I'm not on this guy's side. Good. I'm happy he said that.
I'm happy he was.
Because I can find solutions, right? I've been told to stop finding solutions for people's problems.
You are a solution finder, and you like to see the best in people. I love that about you. But at the same time, this
No,
guy's
I'm not helping this guy. No, I'm
Okay.
happy he got sacked. What the twat.
Fun fact, though, you know who this man is now, and what his most important job is now in science, like the field of science?
Who?
He's the editor and apparently the dictator of a very, very important journal called the Archives of Sexual Behavior.
Wow.
Which is like a very, very heavily cited journal, despite the fact that it's mostly bullshit. It's really annoying.
But where is this published? In Canada?
Yes, he is a Canadian. Quite a lot of stuff comes from Canada, and it comes to sex research for some reason. I don't know why.
They're really bored there. They run out of things to do to muses.
I have a theory that Canadians are a bit like the British in like that the way of sort of politeness is part of our sort of cultural thing.
So what? They're too polite to cancel idiots?
No. They'll do it, but they'll do it in a very slow and inefficient way, a bit like we do, really. I mean,
I can see that.
yeah,
I can see that.
But they're very, very polite, and I have a theory that the more polite a society is on the outside, the more kinky and fucked up it is on the inside. I have a theory.
You reckon there's like BDSM dungeons all over the place?
Well, dude, I mean, we invented BDSM during the Victorian era.
Fair enough.
Everyone was like, she is showing some ankle. Royston, fetch me my fainting couch,
How preposterous.
How absurd, a woman with rights and ankles. That was the environment in which we invented, like, burlesque dances and, tying people up and vibrators and shit. So you know what?
Yeah, true.
More perverse a society, the more polite it tries to see on the outside. I think Canada's got a little bit of the same thing.
Fair enough.
Going down south of the border, though, now, let's talk about the very good friend.
Clownland.
Let's talk about America. So, while this was happening, when Ken Zucker was running his cozy little, shitty, government resource extraction project, he was conversing and working with a fella called J. Michael Bailey. Have you heard that name before?
I did, vaguely.
You will hear him vaguely because he comes up in the news sometimes, usually for the wrong reasons, and we're going to go through a few of those in a minute. Bit about J. Michael Bailey. He's been professor at Northwest University. At one point, he was sort of like head of their psychology department, although not for very long. The reason he's not anymore, he is still a professor at Northwest University, as far as I'm aware. I haven't actually found anything about him being sacked, but then again, I didn't look hard enough, so... yes, that fella that you just showed me there with the huge, hideous, repulsive, sort of sunken eyes.
He looks like he's sexually oppressed.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Okay, sorry.
He wrote a book in 2003 called The Man Who Would Be Queen.
Oh, I remember this guy. We talked about him. The 150-pound book.
Yes.
That's what he's charging for.
That's how much he is charging for that out-of-print book now, yes. It was the centre of a huge controversy at the time when it was put out, though.
Wow. £158 right now. I can get it off of Amazon. Oh, next day delivery as well. I'd rather not.
Please don't. This guy's got enough money working for Northwestern, all right? He does not need you to buy his £159 book.
I can get it slightly used for 114.
I don't want to know what slightly used means
I
in this
don't
context.
know,
Because when you get to it, that book has a lot of filth in it.
Yeah.
So
you're telling me not to buy the slightly used. So.
I am, yeah. When they say slightly used, they mean that some of the pages are stuck together, and they're probably going to be the most interesting pages anyway. So, so the man who would be queen caused controversy for a bunch of reasons. One, it was pretty supportive of a bunch of really outdated ideas that there's two types of trans people: the gays and the perverts. That's basically, to sum it up. They dress this up in like fancy sort of sounding language, but that's basically the idea. So he got a lot of bullshit for supporting that idea. Fair enough. He got a lot of bullshit that he probably wasn't really guilty of for the book too, like claiming like misconduct.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
and,
as in?
Well, he seems to have a bit of an issue with consent. And when I say about an issue with consent, I mean he was quite a lot of the book is him just going around like sleeping with trans sex workers and then like telling their stories in his book without asking them. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Because he talks about all these.
What?
Yeah, that's kind of. I packed a lot into that sentence there. I'm just going to give you a sec.
Whoa. So okay, the story. No. I got what you said, Billy. I got what you said, but I'm just surprised that why would you write a book and then hate on these people and interfere with their lives because you think you can make a buck off of it, just to destroy their lives, which is.
That's the thing. And not ask any of them about it in the first place. A lot of this, like, if you read from the book, like, there's some parts of it that have been quoted at length. They're very, very horny. A lot of it is just, like, talking about, like, how hot and natural sex workers, gay transsexuals were. Basically, he saw some trans strippers and thought it was really hot. And that somehow makes them naturals. Gay. I don't fucking know. I will say that he can't be bi because he has said publicly several times that bisexuality doesn't exist.
So did he touch a willy or not? This is my question. This is what I want to know. Because if you touched a willy and you enjoyed it, you might be bi or gay.
Possibly.
Right? So it's like...
You might not be. I personally don't think so. If it's attached to a woman, like...
That's complicated. I don't know.
We're not doing the are traps gay question here. That's a whole thing that's been done.
That's so many levels.
I'm not interested in whether J. Michael Bailey is secretly gay or not.
He probably is.
Let's just say he spent a lot of his time of his own volition with his own money doing research for a book where he basically talks about trans prostitutes.
Oh, I know why he's charging £158 a book.
He's trying to get a ticket back to see Daisy.
No, he spent so much money on trans prostitutes that he needs to recoup his losses. There you go.
Every transphobe who buys one of his books, like going, yes, I'll support this man. All that money's going directly to your local trans sex worker, guys.
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe we should keep the money coming. He's obviously he's sugar daddying for a whole bunch of people right now.
That's fine. There you go. We solved it.
Yeah, so he said a bunch of dumb shit in the book, and a lot of people. One of the ladies that he slept with accused him of. She tried to accuse him of what was it? Giving unsolicited, breaching basically his value as a counselor. Because as a psychologist,
yeah.
Then basically she was saying that he overstepped his mark and he was doing therapy on people when he shouldn't have been. It was not brilliant accusations. He basically dodged all of them and he was fine.
Yeah.
But the controversy did sort of lead to him sort of stepping down as being the head of psychology. Not that it stopped him from teaching.
Those who can't teach.
Yeah, speaking of cunt teach.
He was a cunt teach.
He really was.
I know the story.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that. Not quite yet. He had another further issue with acquiring informed consent when he took a bunch of photos of children without their parents' permission and put them in a book. And used them in a lecture where he was like, here we see the transphysiography of the eventually transgender child will be basically pointing at these kids and laughing at them for being gender non-conforming, like teenagers for the most part. They were a bit older.
Yeah.
He did this in public in a lecture, which you can find a video of on YouTube somewhere. I know because I found it, and it's really kind of disgusting. It's like...
I hope it never goes away.
Oh, no, it won't.
So he stays over his head.
Yeah, he got a lot of complaints from his own students over the course of his career for all sorts of shit.
Why are these people still allowed to teach?
It's a good fucking question. Like, the idea of a professor having tenure, I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, they can't be fired.
Yeah, I don't understand how that's a thing. Like, that would not be acceptable.
You should be able to be fired because there's no excuse. If you do something disgusting, you should be able to be fired.
Yeah, imagine if there was, like, a pot washer who couldn't be fired and they just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They're just going to sit there and just, like, collect a check? Like, okay. I suppose so. I mean...
Because he has tenure. Because he's been here for 10 years or what? That's what tenure is, right?
I think it's like I don't know if it's always 10 years, but it's like over a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And you just get paid forever. And I understand the principle of it, but I think there should be more ability for you to get fired if you do dumb shit. Because, people get dumber throughout their lives. Well, and they get smarter, but mostly they get dumber throughout their lives. Why would you still pay somebody? And also, sometimes fields go out of fashion. Not just out of fashion, they're irrelevant to be taught. Yeah, I mean, imagine all those, like, eugenics professors in 1939.
Yeah.
They lost their jobs pretty fucking quick.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, what's the point of us just paying professors for fields that are fucking irrelevant?
I suppose the point is to encourage them to go afield and do research on their own back. That's not really how it works.
This is what happened. He went and he slept with a whole bunch of trans, and then he wrote the book, and he's trying to recoup his expense.
Literally. He's trying... Yeah, maybe we shouldn't have professors have freedom over their own research if this is what they're going to do with it. It's like, oh, well, I've got a receipt here for me funding, and like, oh, it says you spent lots of money on candy, like boiled sweets. Oh no, candy with an I. Sorry.
She was great. She had a willy
and expensive taste, as you can tell by this bill. But
we'll get them cancelled.
But yes. All this is leading up to the issue that people are probably most familiar for him with, and the bit that has its own cute little section on his Wikipedia page, the fucksaw incident.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to repeat that again because you may not have heard me the first time. The fucksaw incident. Now,
and yes, he did say fuck and saw in the same sentence.
Yes.
And yes, it is a thing.
So
I'm just looking down on the ground and like, I heard the story already twice. So.
I have told the story to Andre in the pub, so it's not a blind reaction for him, but it might be for you. Okay, strap in. So, Mr. Michael Bailey is teaching a class on human sexuality. Pretty broad topic. I'm sure there's some value that can be gotten from that. However, his idea of lesson planning, and I say this with all the scorn that comes from a guy who tried to be a teacher once, his idea of lesson planning was basically get a naked woman, put her on a desk in front of a bunch of 20-somethings, without warning them, by the way, and then basically fuck her to death with a jigsaw with a dildo on it.
Did she actually die?
No.
Okay.
No, I imagine that the class... I've tried to look up what he was trying to teach with this lesson.
I don't think he could teach anything with that lesson.
What could you teach?
So, after we'd had that conversation in the pub about this exact thing, I went down the Reddit rabbit hole.
Oh, no.
And I read the comments, and I think they were Americans. And most of them, they were a bit angry with it. I said a bit because I'm trying to be but there was this one particular guy that said, I actually seen an interview with her after the fact. And she said, oh, I am into getting off in front of people, but I couldn't come at all. And the next guy underneath said she had stage fright. Because this is Reddit, okay?
Reddit.
This is Reddit.
You know what's interesting, though? I have an alternative hypothesis for that. I think the reason that she couldn't come was because the people weren't there to watch her because they had no idea this would be happening. These are just a bunch of 20-somethings showing up to their human sexuality lecture.
But here's the thing.
And it's like, oh, hi, I'm Janice. I'll be your model for this. Model for what? What? Professor. Oh, okay, he's ignoring me. Professor, why is this naked woman in the... okay, it's for... Okay, I'll trust you on this.
How did you think he approached her? Went up to her and said, listen, I got a drill at home. And a massive dildo.
Not a drill, a saw.
Oh, sorry. I have a saw at home. And a massive dildo. Would terribly be mine if you get naked and on the desk. She's like, I don't know if I want to. And then he's like, I'll give you $5. She's like, all right. How did it go down? Did she even give consent for something like that to happen?
I'm assuming she did. Otherwise, there would have been lawsuits up the ass. Like, the fucking he would have got from those lawsuits would make what happened to her look like nothing.
Yeah.
But I've got a feeling that she did consent, which leads me to question, what kind of people is he hanging around with to find people who are really interested in this idea?
Oh, I know. Epstein. Oh, he's dead now. Oh, his friend is dead.
They weren't even into that shit. They were just into, what I'm talking about. He was probably going to some seedy underground stuff just for fun.
Oh, you reckon?
Yeah. Besides his holidaying with trans prostitutes and shit. Like, he's going to some seedy underground clubs. Let's put it that way.
Where only Frederick goes. Oh, yes. I do like that. Imagine.
Oh, moving on. But yeah, that was the fuck saw incident. I hope it lived up to your expectations. They cancelled the class, obviously, because a bunch of people looked at his lesson plan and said it had no academic merit whatsoever, which...
Nobody's surprised?
Nobody is surprised by that, least of all. Although Michael Bailey was surprised. He
was he?
Yeah,
he was now.
He
was
genuinely thought...
Oh, he thought he did the favor to somebody.
He thought he'd done a really interesting bit of lesson planning, and it's like, no, dude, that's just called self-indulgence. You're just indulging what you want to do, which is not what you should be doing.
You think Candy wasn't available, and that's why he asked this girl?
I don't know.
I wonder what Candy was doing that day.
I think I've tried to find interviews with the guy about it. I can't find bugger all, so I don't know what he was...
I think he was advised by his lawyers not to say anything.
To say jack.
So that brings us back to the fact that if you have a good enough lawyer in America, you can do whatever you want.
Basically,
Look at the clown in power.
Especially if you've got tenure.
Yeah.
All this leads up to the most recent thing he was in the news for, which is in 2023, he did a study that was published by his friend, Mr. Ken Zucker, in the Archives of Sexual Behavior. And on the surface, it looks pretty standard, It's an assessment of the rapid onset gender dysphoria idea. Have you ever heard of that?
I heard the terminology of gender dysphoria.
Yeah, but rapid onset gender dysphoria is like a diagnosis that some bitch basically made up.
Obviously.
And
everything's made up, Billy.
True, but it was also made up on the basis of complete bullshit evidence, which I can't get into because it's just this is going to go long enough already.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah, yeah. So he did a study for the Archives of Sexual Behavior, and in that study, he claimed that a bunch of people become trans because of their peer groups, like a social contagion, they call it, and because of that, obviously, the end goal of that is that you shouldn't have trans friends. You should ignore stay away from gay people, that kind of thing.
Billy, I love drag queens.
I know.
What are you telling me?
I'm telling you can't watch them. Otherwise, you might want to dress up like a lollipop lady and.
But I like dressing up like a lollipop lady. Billy, what are you telling me?
The point is, it supports the ROGD hypothesis that if your child has one trans friend, they're probably going to turn trans themselves, basically. That's kind of the idea behind it. There's a lot more layers of bullshit to that. The serious problem is that he did not, and this is the second time, third time consent is going to come up when it comes to this guy. This guy did not get any consent from any of the participants to be in his study.
Dude, consent, come on, man. It's the basic of sexual training.
Yeah.
Consent.
That.
I know, exactly, but you're teaching about gender and about sexual behavior. You should know about consent.
You should know, this is like ethics 101. You get consent and tell people, okay, I'm doing this for a research paper. Are you okay with your data being used in this research paper, even if I take your name off? You have to ask that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't get published.
Yeah.
It did, in this case, because he's friends with the guy who's publishing it.
Well, did they leave the actual names in the study?
You didn't leave the actual names. You don't necessarily have to. If someone's not consenting to use their data in a study, it's not going to pass a board of ethics. It's just not. Because if they weren't informed that they were doing it for the purposes of a scientific paper, they might not answer, they might not try. They might just go,
exactly.
There we go. Now, these people did try, and they tried really, really hard. The only single problem with it is where he got the people for his study from, which is from a forum of parents of trans kids. Parents of trans kids. And he was asking their opinions about when their kids came out as trans and whether they were actually trans or not.
So that's not accurate.
No. I mean, let's take a survey of 10,000 parents of like 18-year-old boys. And I want, like, let's take mothers. Let's take 1,000 mothers and say, okay, when did your son lose their virginity? I guarantee those answers are going to be fucking wrong.
Yeah, true. Well, it's 100%. So basically, it's like Chinese whispers. You know the game, Chinese whispers.
Yeah,
it's
telephone or whatever they call it. Yeah. It's like parents of teenagers are like the least
informed people.
The least informed.
Yeah, because nobody knows when those things happen. Like,
we both had pretty rambunctious childhoods.
Yeah.
Did you tell your parents everything?
No.
Exactly.
I would have never left the house.
Your parents would be boarding you in.
Listen, we wouldn't even have this conversation if it would have been in English, if my mom could understand it. You don't understand this. She can still ground me right now. If she would know, she will ground me, okay?
Yeah,
so don't.
Even when you're an adult, like if you go out and you have like a crazy one-night stand or something, you don't come home and immediately go to your mum or your dad and just go,
Mom,
hey, I got fucked really hard last night. That's not some shit that you do.
Guess who got laid? You might be a grandma. I don't know yet. Like, we'll find out in 6 months.
Yeah. The thing is, this whole like rapid onset gender dysphoria idea is based on parents. Like them saying, oh, actually, it came out of nowhere. And it's like, well, actually, if you ask the kid, they were like thinking about it for like 2 years before they told you anything.
Yeah. Well, most kids don't talk to their parents.
No, of course not.
Like there's very rare cases where a parent actually can have a conversation about this sort of thing.
Yeah, like you have to have a seriously good parental dynamic and be super comfortable and chill with each other.
Yeah.
And that doesn't usually happen until you're an adult. So
pretty much about at the age of 30, yeah.
Yeah, you have to like, hit a few milestones before your parents are just like, oh, actually, yeah, I suppose
it's okay.
Just talk
we can
to you
we can smoke a cigarette and have a glass of wine together.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Like, oh, just want to join, stuff like that. But yeah, all this aside, this is just sort of the same mistakes that have been made by people who tried to research this before. Like, this is just him inheriting mistakes from a bunch of other idiots. Where he went really wrong was that there's, usually a scientific paper has like a lead author and then a bunch of other authors, like a bunch of other names of people who helped out, right?
Yeah.
But the person at the front of the name is really in charge. Mr. Bailey was not at front of this paper. He was the second one. The first lady was a person whose name I haven't written down because it's not actually relevant, and the reason why is because she's not a scientist. She's just a mum. She's a mum. She's some kid's mum who also goes on the anti-trans parent website that they got all these people from. It's like going into where shall I get good opinions about race relations in the UK? Oh, I know. I'm going to go ask around at this meeting with this group called the EDL. The English defense. See, they want to defend Britain, so obviously they have some like input on this. It's like if I wanted to find out about black people, so I went and asked the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
I mean, he will tell you black people. It wouldn't be good.
No, it wouldn't be accurate either.
Fun. It would not be fun in that conversation.
No, it probably wouldn't. Okay. Yeah, so that's the kind of level of science that Mr. Michael Bailey is operating on. So what he did when he was forced to retract this paper because it had obvious ethical problems with it.
Just a couple.
Just a few.
Just
I mean, he didn't even get it retracted because of the bad methodology or the fact that it told us, completely useless junk information, which didn't even agree with his own talking points, which is one of the funnier bits, but that's way too much detail. I've read the study. It's total bollocks, and it's really, really funny to read if you know anything about like reading scientific papers.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh wow, he's actually doing that. Oh shit, boys, we got one. Like, it's maddening to read. It's very, very interesting. So after this, he basically went on social media and started whining about how his research was being cancelled by the woke mob or some shit. But he only got it retracted because he didn't ask for the parents' consent. That's the only reason it was retracted.
He really has a problem with consent.
He really does. Basically, if you're looking for a bad scientist, and I'm kind of trying to wrap this up, not understanding consent is a huge, huge red flag. Like if they manage...
There's a lot of red flags in your notes.
There really is. But if a scientist doesn't recognize the concept of informed consent for their terms of their research, they probably don't recognize...
Yeah, he shouldn't read that.
Kind of a shitty person. And this is like the page 101 shit that suppose... This is like, okay, here's a book called What Not to Do in a Psychology Research Paper. This is the first thing. Like, make sure everyone involved has informed consent.
Well, I think also the problem is, so these people, right, before we started talking about it in the pub and we had a couple of conversations about, I wouldn't have known if they were good scientists or not. Because as a normal citizen, because we're all kind of abnormal humans. Anyway, as a normal citizen, you don't go and look in people's credentials when you see... things that are being published because you think, oh, I'm sure media looks after you.
Yeah, if he's got doctor in front of his name.
Yeah, you think so he went through some studies and he should know what he's doing. But the base conclusion is not all doctors are good doctors. Not all scientists are good scientists. Yeah.
They are people at the end of the day. And people can equals massive piles of shit. Especially if people don't pay attention to them.
Yeah.
Speaking of massive piles of shit, to wrap up this little section on J. Michael Bailey here, he's also pro-rape.
Thank God I didn't have a sip out of my drink. You would have not had a laptop.
Andrew just nearly did a spit take on me with that. I timed that so well. I was like waiting for it as well.
No way. How can you be pro-rape?
Okay.
What's she asking for? Don't tell me what she was asking for. It.
No. It's even worse than that somehow.
How can it be worse than that?
Okay.
How can it be worse than that?
So, to answer your question, Andre, I have a tweet here. Would you like to know what the tweet says?
Yes, Billy, I would like to know the tweet.
Quote, "The exaggerated harmfulness of child-adult sex, which I'm not at all advocating for, has had really bad consequences. False memory syndrome, multiple personality disorder, and the false convictions of many people, including Jerry Sandusky. Yes, that's right, Sandusky," unquote. The exaggerated harmfulness of child-adult sex. What do you think he's referring to there?
So a child with an adult having sex.
Yes. Do you know who?
Pedophilia.
Do you know who Jerry Sandusky is?
I actually do not.
He's an American football coach who was convicted of, I think it was over 15 counts of rape. I can't remember. Most of them were against his students. He had he's one of those college coaches that got done for diddling kids, basically.
Wow.
And this guy is defending him publicly on the internet. The tweet is still up on X, the everything app, if you want to go look for it.
No way, is it still on X?
Yeah, I'm just pulling this straight from Twitter. See? I'm turning my laptop so you can see it.
Wow.
Yeah, he really strongly believes in the innocence of a convicted rapist.
So X is full of Nazis and
pedophiles. Oh, yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
There's more layers to X, man. It's like whenever you think you're bored, there's another layer to X.
It's like digging through a lasagna made entirely of shit and racism.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's great.
Yeah.
So, I want to cap this off, and we are running slightly over our normal time, so Andre is going to be very annoyed at me, but...
I love it, Billy. I absolutely love editing a 1 hour video.
I make him do all the editing. It's great. So, there's a sort of, list I have in front of me of just sort of vague, these aren't 100%, there's probably more, there might even be a couple that don't really fit, but how to spot, a really shit scientist if you're just a layperson who doesn't know anything about the field.
Okay, cool.
And it's important information, so listen closely.
Okay,
The first one is pretty obvious. If they're constantly bitching about their research being cancelled on podcasts and in interviews and on the media, then they're not being cancelled. That's not how that works. If you're cancelled all the time, why don't you shut the fuck up?
Yeah.
Also, people being way outside their field. I've noticed with trans stuff specifically, a lot of the times neurobiologists want to chime in on that. Look, neurobiologists, you can tell me about the structures in the brain and, Wernk's bassoon or whatever the hell the part of it that's responsible for hearing is called. You can tell me all that. That's cool. Don't start talking to me about personality psychology. They're completely different things.
Exactly.
It's like, I know how to fix computers. Well, I work in a microchip factory. Yeah, you don't know how to fix a computer. You know how to make a microchip.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. You're an expert in your own field. You're not expert in this.
Exactly. And that's the problem with a lot of scientists. The cold fusion guys? The guys who came up with nuclear fusion at room temperature?
Yeah.
Those guys were chemists. They weren't nuclear physicists. And nuclear physicists pointed them out that they were wrong almost immediately, but nobody listened because of the media.
Great, love media.
It keeps happening, that. Number 3, people who only quote old shit. Psychology is a really young science. So
Yep.
basically everything from before about 20 years ago is kind of fucked.
Yeah.
You know, it's stuff changes so fast. Like, I graduated over 10 years ago. I have to go and read up on stuff that has advanced since I learned it. Quite a lot of these guys don't do that. So
they're just sticking to their old ways and be like, oh, of course, I learned that in school. Should have been good. Leeches are good for you.
Yeah, literally. It's about that, yeah. Number 4, if everyone is writing papers about how shit somebody is, and like the papers are getting published in journals, like
they probably should.
It probably means that person fucked up so bad that you can write a decent critique and get it published. Usually they don't publish critiques like that, but if they do, it's a sign that someone is really fucked up, like really badly. Being pro-rape, obviously that's a bad. That's one. But
needless to say, that one.
Also, if they do way too many podcasts.
Yeah.
Deborah So, being the prime example. Also an example of number 2, someone who was outside their field. Neurobiologist or neuroscientist, I'm not sure which. Complaining about psychology stuff which she doesn't understand. And also debunking herself whenever she talks, but whatever.
It's nice when they debunk themselves. You don't have to do any work.
It is, but it's also really frustrating when you see people believe the opposite of what they've just said because they seem to be saying it in an opposing way. You know what I mean? It also, like, you know, why is this important? Why is it important to spot fake scientists and bullshit artists? Well, besides, you know, the obvious that it leads to, you know, oppression and people making stupid decisions, it also leads to a bunch of people who would rather, you know, things stay exactly as they are and that, you know, trans people could go away and not be seen in public anymore. It gives them a lot of ammo to make them look like they're real scientists. And they do pretend to be scientists all the time.
But they're not.
But they are not. I've got a few names to call out here. LGB Alliance, obviously. I'm part of the B, and those fuckers have never done a single thing for me, so unless they start giving me money now, fuck off. You ain't allies with me, buddy. GenSpect, that's a UK-based one.
Okay.
Basically, it's a fake science grift run by essentially J.K. Rowling's friends. And funded by American far-right hate groups.
Because they all like Harry Potter.
Because they all love Harry Potter, and they did when it came out, and they didn't accuse people who read Harry Potter of being demons. That's not a thing you can find on the internet. Don't look for it. And also the American College of Pedos. Oh, sorry, that's short for the American College of Pediatricians.
Oh. I was thinking where you're going with that one.
They're a fake science organization that uses the American College of Pediatricians to pretend that they are the American College of Pediatrics, which is the actual organization of pediatricians.
Wow, that's a pedo thing to do.
It's a creepy, stalkery, you know, pathetic kind of steal your identity thing to do. Yeah. But the American College of Pediatricians is popping up as expert witnesses in a lot of American courts to justify, you know, actually that trans girl who plays hockey, she should be, you know, kicked out of school. You know, that kind of shit. Basically, if you see any stuff in the, like, you know, trans sports banned in Mississippi or whatever, it's because of these guys. They're the ones pushing that shit. All of them are funded by either right-wing Christian groups in America.
As usually is.
Yeah, like, you know Kenneth Copeland?
Yes, I do know Kenneth Copeland.
People like that. I mean, they got to do something with all that fucking money. I mean, they're living on giant, you know, mansions and, you know, banging 15 prostitutes a night. You know, that's a lot of cocaine.
But you can't be whatever you want to be because, you know, why would you?
Yeah, you know, fuck some poor kid in Mississippi, like getting, you know, tit surgery or whatever. So basically, keep an eye out for fake science. I hope that this video has given you some kind of insight into, you know, how the scientific process works and how it can be taken advantage of by complete fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Don't get conned. Yeah. That's what I want to end up on. Like, if someone makes some sciencey bullshit argument at you and you go, is that true? And you can look it up in 5 minutes and find that it's not.
Yeah.
Do the job.
Yeah.
Do the job of looking it up.
Yeah,
because
that's true. Or don't take advice from Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram.
that's also really important.
It's like if it's there, it's probably fake.
The thing is, we were the last generation raised without the internet, man. And we learned early on not to believe stuff.
Were we raised without the internet?
Yeah, kind of not.
I don't know. I had a computer and internet since I was 10.
I suppose I've been about the same, but you also learn being on the internet in 2005 that, actually, that's not a video of Freddie Mercury playing live in 1997. It's actually a virus. So so we learned that pretty quick.
Yeah.
A lot of younger people, a lot of older people don't necessarily have...
They don't understand. Yeah. I get that.
So don't get conned by the internet, people. Is there anything you want to say, Andre?
Oh, yeah. Fuck Elon Musk. Yeah. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. And fuck Elon Musk.